Hey there, folks. I'm Matt Hansen,
And I'm John Johnson.
and you're listening to
Planes, Trains, and Comic Books.
the podcast where we discuss favorites we've reread, comics we want to read, and everything in between.
And here's the comic we picked this week.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Planes, Trains, and Comic Books. Man, I love it. So, once again, I don't know if you guys heard last week's episode of Nat Turner, but this week we're continuing our celebration of Black History Month, and we kind of wanted to switch it up a little bit, and we decided to do a comic that is written by a black writer that we love and know. I think we mentioned it last week, but it's the Batman story called Blink and Don't Blink by Dwayne Mcduffie, and he's the writer, and he did like a bunch of, I mean, you know him from almost, his name's on like every Justice League animated show and a lot of famous stuff from back in the day.
What are you dropping over there?
I don't know. I'm dropping shit over here. Sorry.
Yeah, pretty much any show that you liked during the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, any
all
DC animated
superhero,
show.
DC stuff. Yeah, he probably has his name on it.
Yeah. Wrote a bunch of stuff. Really prolific writer.
Fantastic stories.
Just like meat and potatoes too. Like really fun reads. Like that get to the point. There's no like, no craziness that you got to wade through like with Grant Morrison or some shit. Like no high evolution ideas or what. It's just, here's a really good story put together cleanly. Like can write stuff for kids that makes perfect sense and makes you fall in love with every one of the Justice League characters. And then, and I was telling John earlier, like this series, because it's from the series, The Legends of the Dark Knight, which was like a comic book series. And I didn't even know about this series when I was, before we read this. Apparently, it's like every writer, like, it doesn't have a single writer, and there's no continuity between issue or runs. So it's like you have 6 issues you want to tell about Batman, you tell it. Then someone else has an idea about Batman, you tell it. So it's like literally Legends of the Dark Knight. Like, oh, you want to tell a story about Batman that no one's ever told before? Okay, you do that.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, really cool idea. I like that a lot because it's basically like you have a full, like if you hate what's going on this issue, probably in the next 2 issues you're going to have a different writer and a different team and a different storyline. So I like that idea a lot.
Yeah, so like if you're like, I don't like you read the first 1 or 2 stories, you're like, I don't really like this one, you can stop reading it, and then guess what, in like probably a couple months, bam, there's a whole new story, a new writer. Because
I mean, like on normal runs of something, you're like, okay, this is one of the biggest writers ever or something, or like Grant Morrison's going to write Batman. He wrote it for 3 years. So, like, if you don't like Grant Morrison's Batman, you're shit out of luck and you're not buying Batman. Yeah. So, and then, like, all the other tie-ins to his thing are, like, they all mean something. They all tie into his stuff, so you can't read Batman without having to, any of his other books. You can't read Detective Comics, and you can't read Batman Incorporated and all these other ones that came out. Or even like Robin and stuff.
Yeah, that's true. We when we talked about it in X-Men, it's like X-Men, they're in Marvel, they're like, hey, let me remind you the whole entire backstory. And with DC, they're like, hope you've read the last 10 years of Batman.
Yeah, they're not holding.
We're going to reference something from back then, and you got to know what's going on.
And the good point is that this is probably the most Marvel-like DC series I can think of, where you don't need anything other than the knowledge of Batman as Bruce Wayne or whatever, which, most everybody knows. And
spoilers, sorry.
Yeah, spoilers, sorry. Darth Vader is Luke's father. Yeah, so like with this series, I mean, you get to like go in and you can just give any of these little runs, these little 6 issues or 3 issue runs. And it's perfectly enjoyable. So I had never heard of this series. That might not be true. It looked really familiar. Like the cover of it looked really familiar when we looked at it. And so that's why I picked it, because I'm like, I think this one is really good because I remember this cover. So I just kind of went with my gut on that cover. and we decided to read it. So
we're like, hope it doesn't suck.
Yeah.
Then we're like, oh wait, it's Dwayne Mcduffie.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, I mean, we already knew it was Dwayne Mcduffie because we're like, we want to. Yeah. So, it's so this specifically is Legends of the Dark Knights issues 1. I think it's like 156, 57, and then 58. And then it goes like skips 3 issues, and then it's like 61, 62, and 63 or something like that. Because it's the Blink storyline, and then the second part of that, which is like another little story he had called Don't Blink. It's like the sequel to it. So, yeah, you want to give the overview of it, John? Or
yeah. So it is a, like Matt said, meat and potatoes, like perfect nitty gritty, like what Batman does best story. Batman is doing his detective work. There is a series of murders that are happening in Gotham, and he's not really piecing it together
like
yet.
Serial killer murders.
Yeah,
like they're finding dead women like every other day, and no one knows like what's going on.
Yeah, and even Batman's like trying to. He's like there. He knows there's a connection, but he hasn't figured out the connection yet. And it's like,
yeah, and even he's overlooking things at the crime scene. Like he's seeing them, but he doesn't realize that they're important, or he doesn't know how they are important. Like on the first crime scene, he in the book opens with him like saying this kind of inner dialogue, like there's this been going on, like another woman dead, like, you know, there's a crime scene. I know everything's connected, but I don't know how. And then like when he gets there, he sees like things that the cops don't, that I know that for sure is something that I need to look at. But then he would see things like there was like 3 dots in the mud around where the woman was left, and he was like, I know that means something, but I don't know what it means. Like, you know, I'm just gonna keep that in the back of my mind until I can think of something. So it starts off with him doing that, and then it goes to our main character, Blink.
Yeah, it cut like, okay, Batman's got shit he's working on, and then it goes to a new character, and he comes on the scene, and he's like, I'm a grifter, and man, let me tell you, I've got a gimmick for getting and scamming people, and it's so sweet you'd never guess it. And he gets away with it, and nobody would ever, guess what it is.
Yeah.
And
you think because it shows him and he's like walking a blind seeing dog, so he's like, oh, he's like pretending to be blind, and that's what the gimmick is.
Yeah, but it's not.
No.
No, he is blind. He can't see like physically on his own, but when he touches someone, he can see through their eyes. And he sees through their eyes until basically he chooses to stop, or he touches someone else.
He accidentally touches someone else.
Yeah. So like literally he can like watch and look through someone's like entire day, couple days a week, or however long. He kind of goes into it, and we'll talk about that. But like that's freaking awesome.
Yeah, and that's
a cool power.
So he steals by seeing. Eventually, they'll go to their checkbook or whatever, and then he'll get their bank account number and like their passwords or whatever. And then this is before passwords. So.
Yeah, he sees their PIN when they go in.
Yeah.
He sees their account information, and he goes and he's like, he transfers money to an offshore account. It's like in the Cayman Islands or something.
Yeah, and so that's how he lives off of. That's a scam basically.
Yeah.
He is blind for real, but he decides to make his money by stealing it from people he bumps into.
Yeah, and he said he only usually takes a day or two, and he gets the goods.
Yeah, and one thing I like about this story is you get first page Batman talking to himself about killing, or not about him killing, but the killings. Then the second page, here's Blink, here's what he does, here's his whole story, here's like how he's gonna talk to you and all that kind of stuff as an audience. And then like the next page is like, or the next thing that happens is he bumps right into the person that puts him in the storyline that we need to be in right now, which is he bumps into a person and he gets he's like thinks he's gonna scam them, like he thinks he's gonna end up doing what he normally does and get their notebook and all that. But what actually happens is he starts seeing out of this guy's eyes, and he realizes this is that serial killer that's going on. He's kidnapping a woman right now.
He watched her. The crazy part of that was that he also watched him for a week, and he's like, "Man, this guy pays in cash, and he's not doing anything. Why? What is this guy doing?" And then,
he's like, "This guy's being weird. Everybody else, automatically goes to their checkbook or whatever." And then
he fucking abducts a woman. He's like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah. So he's like,
getting serious.
Yes, this is not a normal thing. So he actually he trusts his dog a lot. I will say, because while he's in other people's heads, he can't see where he's going for real, because he's actually blind. And so like his dog's like taking him all over the place. So good dog. But but yeah, he's like, he had to look for street signs that the guy was seeing, that the guy was passing as like the woman is in his trunk. And then he got a cab and like said, like, take me there. So he's following them, and he sees it escalating, there's knives, and he sees all this imagery of basically he knows she's about to be killed. And so he gets out of the taxi, and he just kind of stumbles into the field that they're in, but he doesn't really know where he's walking. And he says like, stop. And like that scares the dude off. The dude's like, fuck, there's someone here. This cat can see me.
He did stab the girl.
Oh yeah, he did.
Yeah, he still stabbed her first because he's in the taxi and he screamed like, no, and the taxi driver's like, no, what's going on?
Yeah.
And then he gets out and he screams and he scares the guy off. And as he's walking over to like, he didn't realize how far the guy had gotten. He trips over the body.
That's right. Woman. Yeah, because the guy's running away now, and so he's seeing like the dude from the dude's vision. He's running away, and he trips over her body. I assume she's still alive, and he falls. He gets blood all over him, and then the cops show up because he had called the cops about it, and they're like, freeze. And he's like, I swear it wasn't me. And then
and our guy's name here, this is Lee Highland. He's not called
the story's called
Blink, yeah. But he's not called Blink. His name is Lee Highland.
Yeah, and I think isn't this where they pull off his glasses, because he's like I'm blind. They're like, sure you are, buddy.
Sure, buddy, yeah.
And they pull off his glasses, and this is like really cool. Instead of being like blind, I don't want to say the normal way blind, but like how you would generally think of a blind person is they have their eyes, it just, they're not working. Blink's or Lee's face is, he doesn't have any sockets at all. Like there's just skin where his eyes should be. And so it's kind of a cool character design. I thought it was like interesting as far as that goes.
Yeah, they could have had empty sockets or like all white eye parts, and then
yeah, they could have just drawn glazed over eyes or something,
Yeah.
But
so that was cool.
Or closed eyes,
Yeah, so the fact that even he was hiding just the patches of skin.
Yeah,
cool.
Because I would imagine that would freak people out if you.
Yeah,
I'd wear glasses too, but
So Batman also shows up right here at this time too, when they're interrogating him there at the scene, and Batman's like, that doesn't make sense. How are you not? How did this happen? And
yeah, like if you're really blind, which obviously you are because you don't have eyes in your head, like you have no eye holes at all. Like, how did you know where to go? How did you follow him? How did you see him committing this murder from like 50 yards away? So they bring him in for like actual like interrogation, and he actually, I guess Batman touched him, or
Batman helped him like from the car to because they separated from his dog, and that's where he touched Batman.
Yeah, so now he starts seeing through Batman's eyes. So he's like in interrogation, but he's also seeing through Batman's eyes. And so Batman leaves. He's like, I know there's something fishy about this. We can't quite, like, we don't have anything on him other than he was at the scene of the crime. And so Batman is like, okay, I'm going to go figure this out. So he starts, tracking down, I think he had, what did he have on? How did they know?
So Batman gave also Batman the idea of like who the guy was and what he looked like.
Yeah.
So Batman was also able to figure that out and bugged. He bugged Lee's house, and he also bugged
of course,
the murderer's house.
Yeah, Batman's gonna bug everybody's house.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then like the cool part was I didn't know if they were actually gonna reveal it to Lee or not, but So Batman, he tracks down the bad guy, and then he like bugs his house, and then he's driving home.
Yeah, he goes to the Batcave.
Goes to the Batcave.
I know. I'm waiting for this too. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, when is he gonna like pull it off and be like, "Oh man, what a long day as Batman."
Yeah. And Alfred shows up. He's like, "Hi, here's dinner," but he doesn't say Master Bruce or anything. So, they did a good job of making you think he was going to figure out who Batman was just because of that. But Alfred never said Bruce's name.
Yeah, and while he's in the Batcave, he's watching some stuff from the murder, but then Batman goes to help stop a robbery he finds out is happening too. So Batman gets pulled from that, and he's going to help stop that. And while that's happening, the murderer grabs another woman and abducts her.
Yeah. And so he's about to, he takes her to a secluded area again, and luckily the robbery, Batman takes care of that quick enough, and then he has the tracker on the guy, so he goes right to where he is, and the dude's about to kill someone, or the dude's about to kill another woman, and Batman shows up and
just
is
in
like,
time.
Yeah, just in time to save her. And then when he let her go, it's over. The guy stands up with his knife and he gets shot. Someone shoots him.
Someone shoots the murderer.
The murderer, yeah. And out of nowhere, and then starts taking shots at Batman and the woman.
And they realize it's some kind of sniper from further away. And they're like, what is going on?
It's not just one guy. It's not just a sick serial killer. There's something else going on here. So there's some kind of underground whatnots. So basically, they go to the eventually the shots stop, and
Batman goes and finds the gun, but there's nobody there. Like, they left the sniper gun, but nobody's there. So he's like, oh, cold. Where we got to figure out what happened.
Yeah, and what we've come to find out is it shows the guy who was the sniper, and he goes back to the main bad guy's house, and it turns out it's a snuff film ring.
Yeah,
which is weird. I was like, oh, I haven't that seemed like it was kind of an early
for Batman,
but also it's dark for Batman, but it's also seemed like kind of a and so serial killers for that matter. Obviously Joker and stuff is a serial killer in some sorts because he kills people randomly all the time.
But his villains are you think Batman, you think costume villains, and then a guy robbing a bank.
Yeah, this is
not I killed 12 women
and filmed it and then sold it to politicians and fucked up high powered people or whatever. So this was a little bit of a darker storyline. But it was weird. I was thinking oh, this is kind of like a early 2000s kind of a movie, or like a late 1999s because if you think about it, there was 8mm. A couple other movies around that time that were about snuff films. So and then you had Faces of Death and stuff come out around that time too. So it was I don't know if maybe that was on everybody's consciousness or something, or
maybe that makes sense.
Maybe, yeah. So so it turns out you just know that these guys make snuff films, which the other ones were
there's a guy that looks like Curly from the Three Stooges.
Yeah, which
gets some crazy.
Which is funny. It's about some serious shit, and then the guy who's the head snuff film dude looks literally like Bozo the Clown without the makeup on. His hair, he's balding on the top, but he's got the side hair that's poofing out.
Yeah.
It's kind of cartoony, but you know what? It's fine. You got to remember, it's comics, folks. All right? You got to have a little fun, even when you're talking about snuff films. So
but right before it shows them talking, and then right at the end they're like, "We got to cut loose ends," and then they show a picture of Lee, the blind guy. And they're like, "Oh no!" So they know that the blind guy was at the scene from them before, and they have to kill him as their next task.
Yeah. They're like, there can't be witnesses. We know that dude's a witness. We got to kill him. Yeah. So, now Batman's got to protect him, and he knows he's got to protect him, but he's got to also kind of use him as bait ish. Yeah.
So Batman goes to Lee and says, "Okay, so how do you really know these things?" And Lee's like, "Okay, I can see things by touching people." He tells him how. Batman doesn't really believe it until he says, "Well,
how's Alfred?"
Yeah, tell me about Alfred.
Yeah.
Batman's
like,
"Whoa,
holy shit!"
He said, but then he's like, "Oh no, I don't know who you are though. I didn't. Yeah. I guess I stopped watching, and I."
Well, that's nice of him. Yeah, I guess there's a lot of creepier things he could do with his powers, I guess, but so then like Bruce goes to a like high class highfalutin ball or whatever.
Bruce has got to make his rounds and show he's
I don't know what rich people do, but apparently they go and like mingle with other rich people in fancy places. So he's mingling with people, and some guy's reading the paper and goes, "Hey, did you hear they caught that serial killer?" And one of the guys is like, "What? What? You killed what? They got him?
They got him."
It's so obvious. Like
not incriminating.
Not that I don't know this guy or anything, but did they say if they got more information? And so like this dude incriminatingly like is very interested in what's going on. And then he goes straight to Bozo, who's named Davies. And the guy that got mad is named Mr. Carmichael.
Mr. Carmichael, yeah,
so,
they gave him a good villain name.
Yeah. So he makes it seem like he's connected somehow with that name, but I think he's just some either a billionaire or some like someone important in the community.
Yeah,
that shouldn't be liking snuff films. It's a weird thing to get into. So, but he's like you have to catch this. You can't. You got to get Blink or Lee, and you got to kill him. There can't be any witnesses. This has to happen, or else we're all going to get caught and shit. And he's kind of forceful with Davies, who's the head of the snuff film thing. And so like Davies really kind of resents that because he thinks he's in charge, but he actually knows like he thinks he's got a hold like a handle on everything. So.
Shows Lee going back home.
Yeah.
Lee goes into the apartment, and the sniper guy is there, point a gun at him, and it's like, "Hey, you need to tell me
you did."
Yeah. Before you do though, like tell me, what you saw the murder. I thought that was a little weird.
Or like how you saw.
We're gonna kill him, but how did you see it?
Yeah, how did you do it? Because they're like he is blind, so how did you know? Because I think they think he heard it from someone else, or someone else told him.
Oh, that's true.
Something, because he's blind. How could he see it? So, I don't think it's actually they care about how he sees it for real. I think they just want to see if anyone else knows about it that Lee knows. So, then Batman, he bugged Lee's house. So
of course
he's hearing all this, and the dog's freaking out. And Batman's on his way, of course.
So yeah, Batman jumps the Batmobile and zooms off. The Batmobile was cool. It looked kind of like
it was cool. It's like a mix.
Bit.
It's like a shortened. It kind of looks like a mix of. It looks more like the Michael Keaton and the Batman Forever one, but shorter.
Yeah.
So it's got like ridges on it and shit. I don't know how else. It doesn't have lights. Like the Batman Forever one lit up, like it had those blue lights. Doesn't have blue lights. But it does have like some ridges on it, like where the lights would show through.
Yeah,
it has those ridges, like the ribs on the side of it, and it's got some little like wing fins off the back and whatnot. So kind of like the Michael Keaton Batmobile, but it's shorter. So I like the design of it. Like why would Batman have like a 40 foot like long vehicle or what? Like a V20 or something. Like don't get me wrong. I love the Batman animated series style, but that car.
But how do you turn in that car?
How do you make a turn when you're chasing bad guys when you have a V20 giant like Scrooge McDuck car? It was ridiculous. It's a great design for a show or like an animated series or whatever, but you ain't gonna drive that on the street. You can't do it in a movie. So. This makes more sense as far as him getting around town.
Did you also notice, just a little side thing, in the Bat Cave, all the other Bat vehicles too? There was like a Batcopter and the Batboat and the.
No, I didn't notice that.
Oh yeah, I thought it was just a little thing I picked out.
That's cool.
It was a cool looking Bat.
I'm gonna have to go look at
Batcave,
it.
But it was very like the Bat this and the Bat that. It was a little like kind of.
Well, you got to have maybe toys will show up or something. So
anyway, Batman is on his way to save Lee.
Yeah, and Lee's getting worked over by the sniper guy, And what's weird though? Like, okay, so the sniper guy, I just assumed he would look not like an Italian mobster or something. Like he looks. It's like it's like if you saw The Godfather and you were like, "There's a goon." and he has a mustache. That's, like that. Whatever you're picturing in your head right now, audience, is exactly what he looks like. So I was surprised at because he's not in the mob. He just works for this, underground ring. So the fact
snuff
that
film, maybe they think like creepy porn.
maybe he
stuff.
is supposed to. Maybe it's a mob run snuff film.
Maybe.
I don't know. But either way,
I don't know. The other guy does not seem like
no.
he's
Yeah,
in the
Bozo
mob.
doesn't
Bozo
look like he's in the mob. So, yeah. So anyway, he's getting worked over, and that dog is like, "Fuck you, that's my master," and so he starts biting the dude. And I thought he's gonna kill the dog, and I was gonna get all sad.
Oh, no.
But he did not. He just, the guy hits the dog with like a can of, dog food. But by the time he gets up and he's, the dog's okay, just got pushed off basically. Batman's there and, shows up but the guy gets away.
Yeah, he runs away just as Batman's getting there. And he's like, don't touch me. Because the sniper guy touched
because
me.
he was beating the shit out of him, so he actually can see what the sniper guy was looking at.
Yeah, so I can we can figure out where they're staying, where their hideout is.
Yeah.
So Lee's basically telling Batman where they're gonna be and where the guy's getting back to the hideout, and the sniper guy goes back to see Davies, the bozo, and it's like, I didn't kill him.
Yeah, but he's like, but you touched him and everything, and he's like, yeah, and he's like, just shoots him in the face. So Bozo shoots the sniper guy in the face because he knows somehow. I don't know how he figured that out but he knows that the blind guy knows things. Whether he's psychic, he doesn't know that he can see out of the eyes of someone. I don't think, but he knows. Oh no, he does. He actually says Highland, I hope you can see me in there.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I think I know what happens. Carmichael gives him the police report where they wrote down where he said, everything. I can see, out of people's eyes or whatever. So that's how he finds out that Lee can see. So Davies shoots the mustachioed sniper in the face and kills him. And then that's traumatizing for Lee, of course, because it's like he got shot in the face, but he didn't die. That would be scary. I was like, wouldn't that be like when you're dreaming and if you die in your dream, you're supposed to also die or something?
Yeah.
I would imagine that would be similar to that, where you're in someone's head, seeing through their eyes, someone shoots you, but it's not you. Wouldn't that be traumatizing for your brain too, or you just get kicked out? And that's it.
I don't know. I would assume you would just get kicked out, but it still would be like, oh my god, I'm shot.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but anyways, so Bozo or Davies, now he's got a body to deal with, and he's like an idiot. So he's like, I don't know what to do. Don't you roll these things up in carpet or some shit?
Yeah, I thought that was funny.
How don't get rid of this body? So yeah,
so he goes to see Carmichael and is like, hey, I have dirt on you and all these other people. I have a ledger of all this, so I need you to dispose of this body for me.
Trying to act all tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Carmichael's like, go fuck yourself. Who do you think you are? You don't know shit.
He's like, oh yeah, well, I'll release this information if you don't help. And so he's like, oh, so he helps. Basically, he sends some guys over.
Yeah, to help get rid of the body, but also he's supposed to get rid of Davies too, because he's pissed that he approached him and was doing stuff. So we're trying to hold it over his head. He doesn't want that information.
Yeah.
No one needs to have that information on him. So then Batman gets a hold of one of the guys and gets it out of him that he works for Carmichael.
Who hired you?
Yeah, he works for Carmichael. So now Batman.
Who hired you?
What are you doing? Where do you work for? Yeah. That's our great Batman.
You sound like Claw.
It's close enough. It's close enough.
I'll get you, Gadget.
I think Christian Bale sounded like Claw. All right. I sound like Batman. So.
It's good.
But yeah, so now Batman knows. So he's going to Carmichael, and Carmichael did send people over to get the body and take care of that, but also burn the place down, get the ledger with all the evidence and all that shit, and to kill Davies, and then Carmichael's there, and he sees Davy's waiting across the street, look, for some reason, like they wouldn't see his car there, and he's, he's like, oh fuck, they saw me, and then like Batman shows up right as he's trying to drive away from Carmichael and runs into him. So then like Lee's in the passenger seat with Batman, like where Robin would sit. So Lee gets out. Batman gets out, yeah. And Lee starts trying to shoot at, Davey starts trying to shoot at Batman, but then Carmichael's guys shoot Davies, and then there's a whole firefight going on, and Batman fighting them and everybody, and then Batman goes to check on Davies, and Davies is like, the ledger's in my car, like with all the evidence on Carmichael, you got to turn him over, the cops basically, and so then he dies, and then Batman takes care of business and takes care of everybody, including Carmichael and all the guys and all that stuff. So pretty much that's how it ends. I mean, it doesn't end like.
Well, I thought the last little piece was cool. It was like they're all fighting, and then Davey says that, and then I guess Batman touched Lee touched Batman before he got out of the car or something like that, and so they're all fighting, and then Carmichael goes over to the Batmobile, and
that was cool. Yeah,
he has his hand in the Batmobile with like a gun.
Yeah, he's gonna shoot Lee. He's threatening to shoot Lee in the head unless Batman lets him go.
Yeah, give me the ledger and go.
Yeah,
and so Batman is like staring at him, and then Lee says,
knowing that Lee is looking it through his eyes, Batman looks at a button in the Batmobile.
Yeah, he's staring, and Lee's like, "Why is Batman staring at a button?"
Yeah,
and he's like, "Oh wait, I get it.
I'm supposed to push this button."
So he pushes the button, and it slams the
auto hood.
Because Batman Batman doesn't have doors. He jumps out the top of his thing.
He's I guess it'd be the windshield and top assembly.
Roof. Yeah,
the top. The thing that slides forward.
Yeah, slides forward. It closes that, so it catches his arm in there. I'm sure it breaks it.
I'm sure. Yeah, President cut
it
off.
But
that thing slams shut in everything
in every episode of Batman. And every time you see it.
Yeah, I would not imagine that'd be a fun thing to have your hand caught in.
But that was cool. So he fucking. Now they're here, and he can give him to Gordon and give the ledger of all the political people.
Yeah, so now there's like everybody knows that these political people have got snuff films, and the crime solved. But and then Batman, before he lets Lee go, he's like, "Hey, I looked into you. I know you're like a grifter. Stop doing that, or else I'm gonna catch you and put you in jail or whatever." So then Lee can't. He can't. Now he knows that Batman,
he's like, I'm watching you, so be good, and then he drives off.
Yeah, so now Lee can't just, get money for free or whatever, or for scamming people. So
that's the end of.
That's the end of the first run of Blink, or the first little, storyline. Batman Blink. Then 3 issues happen. Some other person had a storyline they wanted to tell, and then they brought McDuffie back for the second Blink, called Don't Blink.
Don't Blink. One of the things I want to say before we go was really talk about the art as much, and I mean it's kind of a.
Oh yeah, the art was solid.
I was gonna say that's what I was gonna say is that first off, the cover art compared to the inner art, at first made me be like, I feel a little like it was like significantly different. Like the Batman on the outside kind of had long ears, and the inside he's got short ears.
No, and we were talking about this. I think. So the reason why he had bigger ears or whatever, if you look at the perspective of Batman, it's like a fisheye lens, so it's supposed to be Blink's what he sees Batman as, like through other people's eyes. Because if you look, there's a shadow of a knife, like someone's fighting Batman with a knife, and so it is like supposed to be through his eyes.
I just thought it was interesting, but yeah, the art itself is solid. It feels like a Batman comic because all the colors are a little darker. Like even the blood is like a dark red. It's not like a bright.
Yeah, nothing was vibrant or anything.
Yeah, lots of dark grays, dark blues.
Yeah, this had like a really solid feel.
But it looked really nice.
Yes, everything was really well done.
And I like the Batsuit. I thought besides
Batsuit was great.
Having 30 pouches around his.
Hey man, you're in pouch territory. We talked about this with Batman Hush, same time period.
That's right.
And he had a lot more pouches.
That's true. Right? Batman Hush had a lot of pouches. I get, but Batman's one of the few characters that it makes sense. He's got to have his little gadgets, so he's got pouches for it. I get it. But would you have like what?
Okay. Example, Batman needs his pouches. He always has little gadgets to pull stuff out. Cyclops has a lot of pouches too. I never see Cyclops reach in and grab anything out of those damn pouches. So I don't know why he's got them.
It's just extra visors.
Yeah, just more visors. A visor for his visor. So yeah, I don't know, or like different colored visors.
Maybe, he's got different costume colored visors.
I don't know.
Pouches.
There's a lot of belts and pouches on them. So I don't.
Yeah,
know.
A lot of characters that have them.
But Batman actually uses what's in his.
That's true. One of the few.
There was not an episode of like Batman animated series where he doesn't reach in and pull a fucking I got poison. Let me get this pill that I happen to have in my belt for this poison that I took, or like smoke bombs, and they're like little, those little like marble sized smoke bombs or whatever. He's his pouch as well. So I'll let him have pouches. This was not as much. I didn't notice it nearly as much as Batman Hush pouches though. So, and I don't think Batman had the pouches. I think other characters had the pouches in Batman Hush though, right? Wasn't it like?
Well, yeah, everybody had.
Yeah, everybody else had pouches. Like Huntress had pouches, and everybody had pouches. So, but Batman less, but he has the most reason to have a pouch. So,
and to be fair, Clayface had pouches when he turned into somebody else, and he definitely doesn't. That's need pouches.
True. Hush had a lot of pouches. So,
but anyway, Blink was nice.
Anyway, back to really Blink nice. And McDuffie's solid writing. Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, the art was solid in this, and McDuffie, the storyline was great. The paced well. It got to the point. It was a good detective story.
Any filler.
I didn't know where they were gonna go. I didn't even at the end. I was wondering how, who's gonna get away? Is everybody gonna get captured? Is Carmichael gonna get away? Are they leading to some bigger bad? I don't know. So did a good job of making you keep guessing and making you want to read it. I never wanted to put this down. I was like, I'm just gonna keep reading because this is a really good story. So, like we said, there was 3 issues called Blink. Then there was a 3-issue storyline of someone else. Then there was another 3-issue stories of Blink called Don't Blink. And this one was also good. It was a little bit more straightforward, I think, because it was okay,
Yeah, there wasn't as a real surprise per se.
Yeah,
there was some that's interesting, but nothing oh whoa, he can touch people and see.
Yeah, because the first one is us getting introduced into him.
Pardon my sniffles.
God damn it, John. Because we already know the gimmick of he's blind and he can see people or whatever, or see through people's eyes. So, yeah. So I will say this. McDuffie just ups the ante.
Oh yeah, with what's going on? That's true.
So the first run of Blink was a snuff film. If a snuff film of not just regular snuff films, but actually kidnapping the ladies and then becoming a serial killer to make these videos on demand, apparently. So that's the first storyline of the bad guys. The second storyline is it's a baby kidnapping ring.
Trafficking.
Yeah, trafficking
kids.
Babies.
That
straight up babies. So yeah,
that is fucking crazy.
Yeah, McDuffie was I'm just gonna make these bad guys way more fucked up.
And it doesn't pull any punches. It starts off Batman crashes into this guy and this group of guys, and this guy holds a gun to a baby's head.
To the baby's head. Straight up shut your damn mouth, baby, or you're gonna get it. Just straight up gun to baby's head. So yeah.
Batman saves, of course. He throws a batarang.
I thought that was funny, actually. Batman apparently can throw faster than I can move my finger.
Yeah.
That's crazy. He throws a batarang, knocks the guy out.
Yeah, and then it just barely saves, football catches the baby. Oh.
And I got
the best
you. Dad.
I liked it. Yeah, I liked that he was we got to get you back to your parents. Is that, that's important.
Yeah. I'm Poor Batman. That's crazy. Yeah. Yeah. I'm surprised he didn't just take him to be another ward. Could have been.
I guess that's
the next
true.
Robin.
I felt you could almost see the tears welling up behind his mouth. This kid's not.
You know what? I didn't even think about that, but yeah, it's there's parents for you, child.
This kid's not going to be a.
You have parents. You have parents. I don't know. That's right. That's what he would sound.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. I just don't cry, baby.
That's scary.
Yeah. So
Batman wants to get the mastermind. He wants to know who's struggling this. He's like, hey, I know a guy who can.
Yeah, he's thinking like, how can I, get into this ring? Like, how can I figure this out? And he's like, hey, I know a guy who, all he's got to do is touch the guy, the right person that I can find, and then we'll be able to get in the inside of this ring and figure out who's the mastermind, who's behind everything. So he goes looking for Lee again, and when he gets there, he gets to Lee's house. Rings the bell, which is I thought that was kind of uncharacteristic of Batman personally. I thought it would go through a window. Yeah. I'm like, what, did he go through the elevator? Like, did he say hi to the doorman while he was going up there? So, yeah, like, so he gets, he rings the doorbell, the door opens, and it's answered by his girlfriend, Lee's girlfriend, who we hadn't seen before. We get introduced to her. And he's like, where's Lee? And she's like, oh, like, he's told me about you. That's great. But, like, I haven't seen Lee for, like, 6 months.
Yeah, some time.
And, like, the government came to get him, and he volunteered for this program, and he said he would be gone for a while, but I haven't heard from him for a long time. And then, like, I felt bad because the dog is there. Yeah. And the dog's being, fed and stuff. But I would imagine there's, like, a special bond between the blind man and his dog. So,
yeah, there has to be.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. And then she's like, but I have a number here you can call. And like that supposedly is supposed to be able to let me get to him.
Yeah.
And so Batman's like, that's a ghost number. And that's probably good because that's a legitimate government thing. He didn't get like taken by evil people per se. Evil like group of people, not government people.
What are you saying? The government's not evil, John?
No, I'm just saying that, I mean, they're not very nice to him going forward. But anyway.
I think we know the government's evil, John.
So anyway, there's
a couple of toughs waiting for Batman.
Basically, yeah, he's outside or Batman goes back outside and they're like, yeah, well, you're not gonna.
I was like, I don't buy these guys as government guys though.
Yeah, like they had like
not the way they were talking; it was the way they looked. I will say that about the art. He didn't always nail the character design of like certain archetypes. Like the two guys literally look like they're in the mob.
Yeah,
they're in the mob. This dude likes to draw the mob, all right? And one of the guys pulls out a blackjack to like hit Batman with. I'm like, what the fuck? Why would he do that? Like, wouldn't he just be like, here's my badge, like I'm gonna arrest you, and then like Marines come out or some shit? Like, if you really want to beat Batman, you don't hit him with a blackjack. And so, yeah, so I would say that about the art. Everything's pretty, like, well done. Like, everything looks good.
Yeah.
But some of the character designs were a little bit off. Like, if they just didn't have a blackjack, they would, they have trench coats and,
I thought they were going to, Batman goes outside and they're waiting for him. And the one guy's like, oh, you got a nice car. Do you lease that? Haha, like make it a joke. And I thought for a second they were going to like say they were going to fuck up his car.
They'd break his taillight.
Yeah, or something like that.
Be a shame if something happened to it, huh? You got payments on this? Or yeah. But they try to fight him, obviously, and with the blackjack they try to knock Batman out with a blackjack. He's going to beat the shit out of him. Yeah. So he does. And then he's like, well, where is Lee? And they're like, we ain't telling you shit.
He's like, oh, you like my car then, right?
Yeah. So he strings them up, which I'm like, this would like kill them, sure. Yeah. But he drags them behind his Batmobile.
It shows.
It's in the snow.
It's in the snow, but it shows them on either side of the jet engine fire that is blowing out from the back of his car.
Yeah. Yeah, it can't be a comfortable position. So he's needless to say,
he's like, I'm just going to take him around the block, but internally, but still.
Yeah, even though there's snow, it's still asphalt and rocks and shit underneath. So I'm sure they got roughed up a bit.
So he goes around the block and they're like, he's like, you ready to talk? And they're like, no, we're not telling you nothing. And he's like, oh, that's cool. I got a full tank of gas.
Yeah, and then so eventually, obviously, they tell him because the next panels are him, on his back glider. I assume that's what he calls it. Yes. And he's got night vision, and he's breaking into this compound.
Yeah, in New Mexico.
And, well, of course, where else would it be, John?
Yeah.
That's where all government places are. So he breaks in, comes upon, the guards and whatnot, and then he sees this container.
Yeah.
And there's, like, all these screens and shit hooked to it, and each screen has, like, a different it looks like, I don't know, they're looking at Indiana Jones on a bunch of screens, but it's actually like a bunch of different, I guess, Islamic areas. That's what it looks like.
Yeah,
on the screens. Which, I mean, it's 2002, so that makes sense. Like, that's what he would be tracking is, terrorists or something. So, and so he's like, oh, there's like in this box, that's where he must be. And he opens the box, and like his little buddy Lee, without the eyes, is like naked in this box.
It's like
and
a
they
sensory
have
deprivation tank.
Yeah, it's like he's floating, and like all these wires are hooked to his brain, and Batman like tries to get him out of there and like pulls him up and pulls all the sensors off of his head. And he's like, what the fuck? Like what happened? What year is it? Who am I? Who are you? Like he's all like just totally out of it. And first thing he says, like, Karen, where's Karen? Did they hurt her? And because like, he doesn't even know how long it's been
there. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically they like lied to him and said like, hey, we want you to help us.
Yeah, with this little special project. Just
Yeah,
for a little
just
bit.
get in the tank for a couple hours and tell us what, and then they just left him in there or some shit. So it's like it's like Cerebro. It's kind of like a Cerebro, is what it like from X-Men the movie.
Yeah, I felt
except
like
involuntary.
Cerebro and like Minority Report a little
bit,
just with the deprivation tank and like having somebody's been hooked up to something else.
That's true. I didn't think, but yeah,
not like obviously it's not precog, but it was here. He's finding people.
Yeah, balls don't fall out of wherever, and then with like a number on them about murder or something. But but he's actively seeing multiple people's inside of their head, multiple people. So it's like they were able to magnify his power somehow, where he could see it multiple lives at multiple times. And like lost himself almost in that, because like how do you have yourself if you're in a bunch of different people's heads?
12 people's heads. It was cool.
Yeah, it was a cool idea. I liked the idea. And then the government comes. They're like, freeze, put him down. And then Batman's like, fuck you, and he fights them all. Which I was surprised actually. I thought, I don't know. I just assumed like Batman being a good guy would be like, come on, guys. I'm Batman, like
we're on the same team.
We're on the same team, but this is a facility full of spooks.
It's not,
so,
it's a government agency. It's not,
this is
Gotham cops.
Yeah, this is like the Untouchables or whatever. This is like the you're not supposed to know about this Area 51 kind of thing. Yeah. So, he's beyond talking about being Batman. So he literally takes on, I don't know, 30 people.
Yeah,
30 trained.
It definitely seems like a few too many, just with guns and stuff there.
Yeah, I mean, they're like, we don't want to hit. They kind of explain it because they're like, we don't want to hit, Lee, because like we need him. But I mean, he's using those pouches. God damn it.
Yeah.
So he's throwing like smoke bombs and batarangs and everything you can think of to make it, so he's not there. And then he just like in the smoke and everything, after he's kind of like kicked everybody down, he just like grabs Lee, who's got some clothes like a robe on now, and he just like jumps out and catches the bat plane like in midair. He shoots it with the grappling hook and like catches it, which is obviously a hard fucking shot.
It was. I thought it was cool because Lee was screaming when all the gunfire was going on, and Batman like tells him stop screaming. And he's like, I'll give you a reason to scream in just a minute.
Yeah.
And then does that. And that was cool because it made me think of like the Dark Knight where he has the little skyhook thing that comes and the plane flies by. It was like that, but with he called his bat plane and.
Oh wow, skyhook, it's fun. Yeah, it did kind of remind you of that. Except
he had to time his shot. He had to time his grappling, so it was cool.
Real hard, real fucking hard. But yeah, so like they get back to
Karen.
Yeah, to Karen, and like Lee explains everything we said about like how he had multiple lives all going at once inside of there, and
it was too. It's like they told him it was like a deal almost too good to be true, and it ended up being that way because they were like, "Hey, spy on these terrorists, and we'll give you tax-free money under the table," and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'll do it."
Yeah.
And then they kidnapped him, basically.
And they're like, by tax-free money, we meant
no money.
We'll kill you if you try to leave. So And then of course Lee's like, so why did you want me, Batman? If you want to use me now. And he's like, well, we had like, basically a baby kidnapping ring that we need to solve. And he's like, okay, I guess I'll help with that because babies are important.
Yeah, well, he's like, you owe me one too.
Yeah. And yeah, that's true. He pulled him out of that thing. So because he pulled him out of the thing and now he's back with Karen, Blink decides to help. And so basically they know one guy. They only know one guy that's part of this ring potentially. So they're like, we have all his movement, or Batman's like, we have all his movements. Like, all you got to do is sit at this diner he goes to every morning and, accidentally stand up when he's walking by you and brush against him. And that's what he does. And so then he can see everything through this dude's eyes. And basically, like, this guy is the head boss. Because he has all these burner phones.
Yeah.
And he's making calls and,
Yeah, they're watching him, and he keeps throwing away phones. And
yeah, and he's got all these, like, things going on that are, like in his house. Just a lot of stuff that, like, okay, he's the guy in charge, obviously.
Yeah, he goes to his house, and he's got, like, he goes to the basement, and there's, like, a fake wall, and he goes behind a...
Yeah, Like, and you go down some stairs, and there's, like, a basement under his fucking house that's, like, gigantic that has another hole into the sewers. So it's like, is this guy walking in the sewer? Wouldn't that room fucking smell? And then your whole house would smell. Wouldn't you go, like, why does this wall smell like shit?
I'm sure if he's got the money for all that he's got
enough. He's got a lot of deodorizers around.
You got a lot of Renewsit in this house.
Just like no ventilation or anything in that basement, just a lot of deodorizers. So yeah. So then this guy shows up and he's like, his name's Farrell. Yeah. And like I can't remember, what is his relationship? He's just in on. He's another guy that they knew about. And so basically he comes down and he's like, hey, I've been thinking about what we've been doing, which is kidnapping babies, and I'm feeling real bad about it. And I went to my priest, and
I can't do it
anymore. And I'm gonna put a stop to this now. And he like pulls out a gun and shoots.
Clark is the guy.
Clark, okay, yeah. He shoots Clark in the face, which is the guy Blink was in. So Blink gets shot again.
And also, he comes in, and then for some reason that guy's there with his daughter, and he shoots him in front of his kid.
Yeah, he don't give a shit. And
exactly. So,
but I thought that was funny. He said like, I thought about this whole business thing we're doing, kidnapping babies, and I think it's wrong now.
Bam.
Yeah, like I love the turn. Like there was no reason for it, or like I mean, we didn't really know this guy. This is the first time we've really seen him. And so and I just love that he's like, I saw my priest, and apparently kidnapping babies and selling them on the black market is not a good thing. All right. And so now I know that, and I talked to the priest, and I'm going to have to make up for this or whatever, like it's like you didn't know it was bad or some shit like that bad. I'm like, it's babies. You're kidnapping babies. So yeah, just thought that was funny. But
so he kills him, and he actually picks up the guy's daughter, and then like runs out of the room.
Yeah, but Blink actually gets he transfers his sight into the daughter when he gets shot.
Oh yeah, because he's able to.
Yeah, like now I mean he can't really do it without. Well, he doesn't know how he does it. He didn't know how the government did it before, but he was able to, without the machine, transfer his sight into the girl.
Daughter. Yeah.
So now Batman's like, okay, tell me where they're going, and like the kid's not looking at street signs or anything. Like she's like, I'm hungry, or she's not saying that, but like she's scared. She's not looking at anything, and the guy's running away. He runs down the sewer, which is a great place to run for Batman in, and I'm sure smells great down there.
Yeah.
And
well, he even makes note like there's like methane gas everywhere.
Yeah, I'm like, you would okay, and this was like kind of ridiculous as far as the story point, but I thought it was fun. So I mean, we're reading comics, so I'm gonna go with some fun stuff, even though it might not be realistic. Obviously, is so yeah, he says like, oh, there's methane down there, don't shoot, and then like, or like, well, okay, so he's chasing the guy. The guy goes up a ladder, like Ninja Turtle style. There's a ladder.
It is a ladder that goes up to the
to the manhole cover, and so he's going out. He lifted the 40-pound manhole. Actually, it's probably like 70-pound manhole cover
while holding the
baby while on a ladder. I'm not sure how he did that, and then gets out of there, and then starts shooting down at Batman, who's behind him, and then Batman's like, "Uh-oh, not good, methane gas or whatever," and then the sparks from the bullets hitting light the methane gas. I'm like, that's a shit ton of methane gas.
That's a lot of methane.
That's a lot. I mean, they would be passed out, I would assume, if there was that. I mean, it blows like.
Yeah, it's a huge explosion.
It's a big explosion. So
it blows up like street and stuff.
Yeah,
too, right?
yeah. It blows like a hole in the street. So it's like, if it was that big, you would be like dead from like not having oxygen down there. But it's comic. And then, of course, like Batman gets away by jumping in the sewage water, which I was like, they should have showed like turds and stuff floating in there just because that was gross.
But it was fun. He gets up out of there. And I thought it was funny. Like his costume is all torn to shreds, except his mask.
Oh, of course. Well, I mean, you got to have your mask on. So, I mean, he might have an extra mask in his pouch.
Well, that's true. He could have done that. But that was the funny thing because he gets up and like Gordon is up there. He pulls up too. Because within the Batmobile's there, Batman like opens the trunk of his Batmobile and like pulls out a new suit to put on.
You just gotta, and then even like Gordon's like, "Do you want a shower?" And he's like, "Nah, I'm fine. I'll just put the suit on." It's like, ew, and just like Freakazoid is like, "Ew, poo water." Like, it was gross. But yeah, I also love, and this is like something from the animated series, but when he takes off, so his whole suit apparently he's got like a shirt. Like an Under Armour type of shirt, apparently, for his top part. And you can just take that shirt off, but his mask stays on.
Yeah.
Which is fun. Because it just reminds me of the animated series when he would, like, take his cape and his shirt off only, and then he'd keep his, like, gloves on and his mask. Like, and then he'd wrestle, like, Ra's al Ghul or whatever. I don't know. It was, like, those weird episodes with, like, Ra's al Ghul always had that. Like, him with his shirt off, but his mask is on. So, yeah. So,
but he's like, I don't think that guy's done killing because he's probably going to go try to kill everybody else involved in this.
Yeah. Yeah, because he's like, okay, he's on a vendetta now for God, apparently, or like out of guilt, I guess, for what they had done. So he's still following the girl's visions of him. And he shows up at this dude's house. What's the guy's name? I don't know if they say it. Harris? Yeah, he says Harris.
Okay.
So he's like, shows up at this guy's house, and the guy's like, "Hey, Farrell, what are you doing here? Like, that's weird. You got this girl here. Who's this girl?" And then Farrell says, "She's not for sale." And then he just fucking shoots
he's
him.
Like, we're closing shop.
Yeah, he's like, "What are you talking about?" He just fucking shoots him in the face.
Point blank in the fucking chest.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's basically like either shot him in the throat or like in the chest. It's pretty
It's a shotgun. It was probably like a tiny.
Yeah, it was. I'm sure it was. He was not having a good day, but
Lee says he's got a list.
Yeah, so he's going through his list, and they catch up to him in this like abandoned house. Is it a house or is it like no, it's not a house. It's like a factory.
Yeah.
And so Batman, like, the police are outside now because Batman's like kept them in the loop, and so they're in this factory and there's two rooms and they don't know which room he's in, and Batman's like, "I'm gonna throw like a marble at the door and see if he answers." I thought that was weird. Like, he's like, "I'm gonna see what happens," yeah. And then he doesn't take the bait, and then so Batman's talking to Lee still and says like, "Where's the guy?" It's like, "Oh, he's like right by the door." Batman busts through the door, and it was the wrong door. And then he's standing by the wall, and all of a sudden he's like, "Oh, wrong door!" And then he like jumps out of the way right in time for the shotgun blast to miss him, which was, I was like, wow, that dude like really knew where Batman was in the other room. He just like took, really good aim through that wall. But yeah, and then Batman grabs the shotgun through the wall. Like, I mean, he crashes through this concrete wall. It looks like a concrete wall, but yeah, just, I mean, the shotgun blast went straight through that wall, and then Batman also can just burst through that wall on the other side. And so he takes him out. He saves the girl, but then he comes out with the girl and he gives them to the cops, and then Lee is like, hey, I got this envelope from someone saying they were a cop. And he's like, what? He's like, yeah, he left it for you. And then it ends up being a picture of his girlfriend tied up.
Yeah, of Lee's girlfriend. Karen.
Of Lee's girlfriend, yeah. She's tied up, and we assume it's from the spooks.
Yeah, we figure it's the government. Lee goes to pull out a gun. He's like, what? It's Karen. We have to go save her. Batman's like, put the gun down. You're going to trust me to find her. I'm Batman.
I'm the goddamn Batman.
The government only will want you to go to take to steal you back. So let me go and get her. She's a liability, but I won't let them kill her.
Yeah.
So Batman speeds off, leaves the apartment, and then two guys come in.
I think it's the same two guys from before.
Probably. They didn't have
they didn't have road rash
road rash or anything. But yeah, they come in and they're like, we need to come with us. And
he says like, well, I'm not gonna, he's kind of stalling basically, like I don't want to, and the dog's growling at him and stuff.
Yeah,
because he knows Batman's like on the trail of the people who have Karen, and so like it shows Batman like he goes from a car to a snowmobile to he goes like all these fucking vehicles to like track down these people, and he finally gets to the guy that has Karen, and or the guy that knows where Karen is, I should say. It's like on the way to Karen, and he gets him to talk, and then he shows up at the cabin where Karen is, and like he sees two guys sitting, and now that they have Lee as well, they actually got Lee.
They got Lee,
and
he sees, and it's right. He gets there, and then he sees Lee's dog.
Yes,
outside,
like chained up outside.
Yeah, they chained up the dog
outside in the snow. What kind of monsters are these government people?
Damn.
And so like Lee is down in the living room by the fire with the guy with like an AK-47. And then the Karen is upstairs by herself. So Batman's like, oh, I'm going to go save Karen. And he gets down, and right when he's about to get down, he sees there's a bear trap.
Oh, yeah.
Straight up bear trap right under the window. And he's like, well, lucky I missed that. And then right when he says that to himself, he gets a chair over the head because the dude was waiting there next to him. I was like, Batman wasn't very stealthy.
Yeah.
Or like detective-y. But yeah, so he gets kind of roughed up by this guy. This guy's like ready to beat the fuck out of Batman. I don't know.
Then pushes Batman into
the bear trap.
Into the bear trap.
Totally like breaks his ankle. Like they even chuck like onomatopoeia on it. I was like, I can't imagine how bad that would hurt.
Yeah, that would
hurt bad. And then he fights that dude. I mean, they're going back and forth. It's like that fight scene from They Live or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, you son of a bitch. Like back and forth in this, like they break through the window in the snow, all this shit. And then like it comes to a head when like Batman finally comes back up. The guy downstairs was alerted, obviously. He goes upstairs where Karen was. He's like, where is he? And then like Batman comes through the door, like all limping and shit. Like he beat the other guy, but this guy, and so the dude was like, I'll kill her. You better stay back. And then Lee walks in and fucking and just kills him.
Yeah,
with a gun, shoots him right in the head, and saves Karen, because he could still, he could see through. Is it Batman's eyes? He can see.
Yeah, he was seeing through Batman's eyes.
So he could see everything that was going on. So, yeah, and then it just ends.
Yeah,
so,
well, yeah, he kills the guy. They're like, oh, and then, he says, "Oh, that's I'm glad that you didn't get hurt, but now I'm a murderer." And then Batman's like, "I didn't see anything.
I didn't see any." Yeah, very like a cartoon ending or whatever. But which is cool because I mean, McDuffie writes for cartoons. So.
That's it. That's why I was saying before. It felt like a Batman story, like in Batman.
I felt like
quips.
I felt like Don't Blink was more like an animated series episode, and Blink was like a good like it was written for a comic, you know, kind of thing. Because there was like more resolution in that, and there was more like.
Oh yeah, I'll give you that. Yeah, because that, especially with like the government back and forth, and then the long fight back and forth between the guy. That it definitely seemed like an episode.
Yeah, and so I think maybe what happened was he wrote the Blink episode, and they were like, "We like this. Like, you have another thing," and he's like, "Okay," and he came up with that. But overall, I had a real fun time reading. This. Like I said, solid art, even though some character designs were a little off. And then it was just a good, fun read overall. Like I would love. If I was reading this in issue format, I'd be like, yeah, this is solid, fun stuff, So, what would you give it, John?
It was good. I liked it a lot. I would probably. This is definitely because I've only read a couple Batman runs now,
right.
But this is probably my favorite so far of the ones I've read, next to like maybe Killing Joke. So,
really?
Yeah,
that's cool.
So I would give it an 8. It was really solid.
8. I would give this one a 7. It was solid. The first run, the first storyline was like
the first half was
really cool and inventive and
super got me into it.
Yeah, and the second one you were just on board because the first one was so good. Even though it was a little bit, it was a sequel. It's a sequelitis, right? Like, but as a trade, it read well too. Like overall, I just went right through this trade. So all 6 issues I just burned through.
Yeah,
so.
We were talking right before. Like I kind of couldn't put it down. Right?
Yeah.
So.
I mean, check McDuffie out. He
seriously go back and look at his stuff.
Dwayne Mcduffie. I mean, we're gonna do another one of his books, which is actually one that he created for Milestone Comics, which was an imprint that he was part of creating for DC, which is like an imprint is like Vertigo was like the mature imprint for DC, and they had some other ones. Now they have some like other ones too, like Black Label and stuff. But Milestone was specifically like black creators writing new black characters, and this was in the 90s. And I was telling John, I can't find any of these comics. I was so mad when we went to look for these, like when we were trying to figure out what to do for these episodes for Black History Month. And I was like, oh, I want to read like a bunch of those Milestone books because I never read those when I was a kid. Just because at the time, I think those started coming out probably around the time I moved to Hawaii, like right around that time. So I missed that whole section.
Yeah, so you're a little more limited.
I mean, the only character I'd heard of was Static Shock.
Yeah. Because
of the show. So I was like, I don't know who that is, but apparently he's a character in DC Comics. But yeah, they wrote a bunch of really interesting characters that don't, as far as I know, they're not in print anymore, which is kind of a shame because I couldn't find them on Comixology. I couldn't find them on Amazon. I don't know if that's because of the people who still own Milestone not wanting to put them out, or if DC or other people are not putting them out.
I'm sure it's probably a rights thing. If anything.
Yeah, it must be something like that. But it's a shame because they're really good and they should be published. And so. But we were able to find a copy of Static Shock: The Rebirth of Cool, which is the first run that McDuffie and I'm not sure who did the art, but we're going to read that later on. And then we're also going to read a book by Mark Bernardin, who was the co-host of the Fat Man on Batman podcast with Kevin Smith. Mm-hmm. And he wrote a comic called Genius for Top Cow that I have not read. He spoke about it in their podcast before, but I like him a lot. Yeah. I like whenever he talks about ideas for stuff on that show, I'm always on board. I want to see that. So I am very interested in reading his book Genius, which you can get on Comixology. which is weird. I think they just re-released it on Comixology like this month because just reprinted it in general because he was doing a bunch of signings on like the first week of January.
Oh, nice.
And he said this is the new printing of it, and I was like, and I looked on Comixology and it the first day I looked I couldn't find it, and then the second day it was up there. So it must have been like really just reprinted or something. So
nice. I look forward to reading it. I love listening to both of them talk, but yeah, I love listening to Mark and talk.
Yeah. So very excited about that. Very excited to read one of the original Milestone characters from Dwayne Mcduffie also wrote that. So I expect good writing from that. And then I will look at more who did the art and whatnot on that episode. But yeah, so for this one, John gave it a 8 and I gave it a 7.
Batman Blink.
Check it out if you can. Comixology. I'm sure it's still in print, like in trade form at comic book stores.
And seriously, this is a good one to pick up. That's just like I said, that solid story. It's a good Batman story. It's a good feel.
Yeah. So it has like kind of a good feel of like if you like the animated series and you know enough about Batman, but you don't have to know everything about Batman. You don't have to know. It's a good like I can just pick it up and not have to know thousands of pages of continuity of the past 20 years. So check it out if you can. And I think that's it for this one.
Yep.
Have a good one.
Take care.
Bye. Well, folks, hope you enjoyed that episode.
If you did and you'd like to follow us on social media, our Facebook is Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, and our Instagram is @Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, all one word.
And be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more recommendations to add to your weekly pull list.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.